This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
In honor of the Detroit Lions having the 21st pick in the draft, on today's show, it's a special edition, just a few days away from the NFL draft. There will be several shows going on, but for today, it's as follows. 21 things, the definitive list of 21 things that are guaranteed to happen during the NFL draft. I decided to make this list for y'all. Some people predict a few, I got them all. So when they all come true, don't be appalled. Just stand up and give your boy applause. It's the Hindsight 20 podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jerry Mallory. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. Dude, it's 72-ish hours away from the NFL draft. I know you're excited for it. I am as well. We've done mock drafts, we've done analysis, and we'll still get a chance to do that. Like I said, this is one of many shows that's going to be coming up, but today is a little bit different. I'm a huge fantasy football guy. Most of you are, no doubt. And one of my favorite things right before it's time to draft, different fantasy drafts happen throughout the preseason, is Matthew Berry on ESPN. He has this definitive list, 50 things, basically his manifesto, if you will, 50 things to live by, to go by, to die by even, according to him, and the NFL draft, or fantasy draft, that is. So for me, I decided to, in inspiration of Matthew Berry, make a list. 21 things. That's why we got the 50 Cent, the 21 questions going on. 21 definitive things that will happen. 21 things to look out for at this upcoming 2017 NFL draft. Most of them are Lions-centric. Some of them are just about the NFL draft as a whole. A few of these on the list aren't definitive, like a yes or no, but they're just strong leanings that I want you to consider. But quite a few of them are just plain and simple. I'll either be right or wrong. And so at the end of this list, we'll see, how many I'll get right. Like I said, though, I'm shooting for 1,000, 21 for 21. Man, we got 50 Cent playing in the background. That's a pretty good song. I mean, it's a lot of levels to that song, too, okay? A little hypocritical. Here you go. You got 50 Cent giving all these demands, basically, would you love me? And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Basically asking a girl, if I didn't have this money, could you love me on the bus? Nate Dogg, shout out to Nate Dogg. All these demands, basically asking if a girl would like him if it wasn't for the material things. Basically, he wants a girl that's going to love 50 Cent for 50 Cent, right? But at the same time, if he was given a list of things he wanted from the girl, sure enough, it would be primarily superficial. Love the song, though. I think my favorite line is, I love you like a fat kid love cake. I used to tell that to my niece, and she would hate it. She thought I was calling her fat. She was young. I'm like, no, I'm not calling you fat. I said, I love you like a fat kid loves cake. We laugh about it now. All right, enough of that. 50 Cent will remain in the background, maybe. I might cut it off, depending on how I'm feeling. Let's get into this list. 21 definitive things that will happen during the NFL draft. Now, number one is, right off the bat, not like a yes or no, but bear with me. And it is as follows. Ahkello Witherspoon is the forgotten name of all the prospects that the Lions have been, rumored to be interested in, and all the positions. Cornerback has been mentioned as well. Ahkello Witherspoon, he got some love for a time or two, but we haven't heard much about him. We've seen the Lions being mocked, trading up for Kevin King. Yes, they like Kevin King. However, if you like Kevin King, you gotta like Ahkello Witherspoon. The size, the physical attributes are similar. So, Kevin King's stock has risen to the point where he probably is going to go in the first round late. If not, if it's in the second round, it will certainly be before the Lions pick. Witherspoon is someone, you could probably get in the third. Depending on how much they love him, they could shoot for the second round. That's just a name to look out for. We've been hearing a lot about this and that player. Mr. Witherspoon has been the forgotten name. Number two, The Lions are talking defense, right? Or the fans primarily. The Lions aren't sitting there and saying, hey, we have to get all defensive players, but we know the deficiencies on this team. We know the things that they addressed on offense, this offseason, primarily that offensive line bolstering the right side. And so if you ask the fans, it's, defense. We got to draft defense. Well, I'm here to tell you this. Our first 4 picks, there will be some defense. But I guarantee you, the first 4 picks the Lions make, 2 of those picks of the first 4 will be on the offensive side of the ball. There are needs. We already know. Receiver, running back, tight end. Those are the 3 main needs on offense. And in the first 4 rounds, as much as we want to say defense, there will be 2 offensive players picked between rounds 1 and 4. Number 3, Reuben Foster. We love him, but you got all these things with the drugs and the injury, the shoulder. So that's one guy. Hassan Reddick. We love this guy. I mean, talk about someone's stock just completely skyrocketing. 2 guys, very talented, could fit what the Lions want to do at linebacker. Well, neither one of them will be available at 21. Now, Hassan Reddick isn't much of a surprise now. It's almost a foregone conclusion. His stock has just gone through the roof to the point where we know he won't be available. But Reuben Foster is the guy where it's like, well, he might be there. Do you draft him or do you draft Jarrett Davis? And does he go to the 2nd round? All that's fine and dandy. He's not going to be there, okay? At pick 21, we won't have the option of drafting either one because Reuben Foster and Hassan Reddick will both be drafted in the top 20. Number 4, Taco Charlton, Jabril Peppers, Malik McDowell. 3 super talented guys, all from the state of Michigan in terms of where they play collegiately. Well, guess what? They'll all be available at 21, and the Lions will pass on each of them for different reasons, depending on the player. But we're not getting into all the specifics. It's simple. At 21, the Lions will be able to choose between Taco Charlton, Jabril Peppers, and Malik McDowell, and they will pass on each player. Number 5, the Lions will draft an open defensive end. Now, that's the position that Ziggy Ansah plays. So you would think they'll be looking for a closed end. Their assignment and their responsibilities are a little bit different. Well, that's fine and dandy. I see a shift coming. I see some changes potentially being made. And the Lions will be looking for a faster, speedier open end, which could mean a few things. It could mean Ziggy moving to that closed end spot, which many people aren't crazy about. It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or perhaps they're going to have some insurance in case Ziggy is no longer on the team. That's something I'm going to talk about after the draft. The possibility of losing Ziggy Ansah in a year or 2. Maybe even fetching something for him via the trade. But we're talking about the NFL draft. The Lions will draft an open end in the NFL draft. Now, number 6, we're going to move away from the Lions and let's focus on a few other aspects of the NFL draft. It's the Cleveland Browns. We love them, right? No, we don't. We play them this year. They need a quarterback. Yes, they picked up Brock Osweiler, but that was a savvy move, basically accumulating cap for a draft pick. Very savvy. Well, they definitely need a quarterback, but they will not draft a quarterback until day 3 of the NFL draft. So rounds 1, rounds 2, rounds 3, we know they have several picks in those first 2 days. It doesn't matter. They're going to look at other positions. They will not draft a quarterback in rounds 1, 2, or 3. It won't be until day 3, rounds 4 through 7, when the Cleveland Browns will finally pick up a young, maybe promising signal caller. Number 7, there will only be 2 offensive linemen drafted in round 1. And one of them is going to be a guard. That means 1 tackle in the first round. That guard is Forrest Lamp. That tackle is Ryan Ramczyk. Everyone else, we'll see you on Friday. Number 8, Patrick Mahomes will be the second quarterback taken in the draft. Now, there's debate. Mitchell Trubisky's going to be the first quarterback, whether it's number 2 to San Fran or a little bit further down. You got to like the odds of him being the first guy. After that, there is some debate. You've got Deshaun Watson. You've got Deshaun Kaiser. All right, there's some fluctuation depending on who you ask. And then there's Patrick Mahomes. He's the one with the cannon for an arm. Kaiser has that cannon for an arm also. And Mahomes is the least in terms of experience. He's the most raw. Some people like his moxie, some people don't. The potential, okay? His ceiling is much higher than anybody's, I would say, including Mitchell Trubisky. That's right. Don't call him Mitch. It's Mitchell Trubisky. And at the end of the day, he will be the second quarterback taken before Deshaun Watson, before Kaiser. Patrick Mahomes, second quarterback taken in the NFL draft. Number 9, back to the Lions. Laken Tomlinson will still be a Detroit Lion once the draft has ended. There's been a lot of speculation. You've got Glasgow, you've got Joe Dahl, both kind of vying for that left guard spot. But Laken Tomlinson isn't going to give up just yet. He's looked rough. He's looked bad. He's still in the mix. And I think Bob Quinn is more open to the competition between Laken Tomlinson, Graham Glasgow, and Joe Dahl than the fans believe. We've talked about, hey, let's use Laken Tomlinson now. We got 3 guards fighting for one spot. One of them could be a backup, and you trade Laken for some draft flexibility. I don't think it's going to happen. First of all, it's hard to execute trades involving players in the draft. So even if the Lions were interested in doing it and they want to explore it, which they might, it's hard to do. But number 2, I don't think the Lions are just that sold on, putting in concrete, writing in that permanent pen, Graham Glasgow at the left guard spot. Glasgow played good, but we might potentially, as a fan base, have overrated him just a little bit. I love the guy. I think he'll be fine. I think we were so happy to see him on the field, and he was so much better than what Laken did. He did struggle, and I don't think left guard is completely sold up. Laken will get a shot, as well as Joe Dahl. And at the end of the day, Laken Tomlinson will still be on this team once the draft is over. Number 10, the Lions will draft a quarterback on day 3. Not a big shock. Some of these 21 proclamations aren't necessarily, bold predictions or wild predictions, just some observations. And as we know right now, we have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. Jake Rudock is now our number 2. We don't have a number 3. It will come via the draft. Bob Quinn has said, hey, it's kind of good if you could pick up a quarterback every year if possible. It doesn't work out that way all the time, but I think this year it does. And so day 3, probably around 6-ish, we will pick up another guy, a third-string quarterback that we can groom, and we'll see what happens with him. Number 11, the biggest fall of the draft will be Jonathan Allen. And by fall, he's still going to be a first-round pick, all right? He's still going to be in the upper half of the first round. But for someone that was, mocked to go number 1 at one point, then Myles Garrett just kind of blew that out of proportion. But then number 2, number 3, number 4, kind of in that range. I'm looking at Jonathan Allen, and I'm seeing more of a 10 to 15. He's talented, a little bit of a tweener, and guys like Solomon Thomas, I think, have clearly surpassed him. You already know when it comes to quarterbacks, who knows how many quarterbacks will be picked early. A few pretty good running backs this year that could be picked up in that upper half. Tons of cornerbacks. We'll talk about one in a second. And so when it's all said and done, I see Jonathan Allen slipping. Not a precipitous fall, nothing major, but a guy that was considered a top 2 or 3 prospect now falling to the 10 to 15 range. Gotta let that beat ride a little bit. It's nice. I'm gonna cut it up just for a second. This was a nice, it's crazy to call this old school. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it's technically with the advent of 105.1, the definition of what's old school music now is kind of like, 10 years or older. But this is technically, old school beat. Let's let it ride just for a little bit. All right, let's move on. I got my little sip of my drink there. Number 12. You're not going to like this. I'm not going to like this. But we have to come to the realization that David Njoku is very much a realistic possibility for the Lions. I'm looking at several ways this draft could fall. Certain players that we're hoping to be there and they're not there. Joku could be sitting there as the number one target on the Lions draft board. It would have to feature pretty much just one quarterback being taken. It would have to feature, maybe just one of those running backs or maybe just two. The draft board would have to fall a certain way where all of those defensive linemen that we may have considered are gone, where, the linebackers that we liked are gone. Jarrett Davis even goes in the top 20, maybe even Zach Cunningham. There's a certain accumulation of players and scenarios where David Njoku could easily be at the top of the Lions draft board. I'm not happy about it. You're not happy about it, but we have to accept this. It is a distinct possibility. David Njoku could be the pick at number 21. Please don't throw up, guys. I almost did for your Detroit Lions. Number 13, Corey Davis is a top 10 talent. And if he's there at 21, despite needs at linebacker, despite needs at defensive end, the Lions won't hesitate. They'll run up to the board and they'll draft their number one receiver of the future. There's been speculation that maybe Corey Davis could fall, not able to get the 40 time and just a few of the things they wanted to see. Some people knock the fact that, his highlights are against inferior competition, quote unquote. Every legit NFL guy would look that way against the MAC. I don't agree with that necessarily. So he could very well fall. But I'll tell you this, from my naked eye, what is that naked eye? Like, what's the other alternative? Like someone that has eyes with like a pair of jeans over them? I don't know. But from my naked eye, I'm no scout. I'm no professional. What I've seen and actually watching the games, not just the highlights and the build and the everything, to me screams number one receiver, screams like a Dez Bryant type of guy. I think the Lions feel the same way. He's a top 10 talent despite having, more pressing needs and potentially guys being there like, I don't know, Reuben Foster, who I don't think will be, but maybe like a Jarrett Davis or, pick defensive end here. Corey Davis is there, receiver from Western Michigan. Guess what? The Lions are going to draft him. Number 14, Garyon Connolly, cornerback, Ohio State, is going to be drafted in the top 10. The momentum has been great. I almost want to say he was going to get picked up before his teammate, but that would have been just a little bit too far. All right. Garyon Connolly has all the tools that you want. All right. The size, the speed. This guy's a beast. And in a league where it's a passing league and you see the number, there's so many talented receivers, there's going to be a team that's going to jump. It's going to be a team that, Connolly right now is being mocked anywhere between like 10 to 20s. He's going in the top 10. It's not going to be early. I can see 8, I can see 9, I can see 10. Dare I even say the New York Jets? Where they at, 6? Garyon Connolly is going to be drafted in the top 10. Number 15, Dalvin Cook will be the first running back taken in this draft. Leonard Fournette is a beast. Christian McCaffrey is a beast. And Dalvin Cook's a beast as well. Great usage of words and great analysis, Jerry. But seriously, those three guys are all really good. Depending on what you want, depending on what you need, they kind of specialize in different things. And Leonard Fournette has been mocked to the Panthers so many times. I could definitely see it happening. But I can see them passing, depending on who falls. Each team, values their running back and wants certain things from their running back. And that's the separation point. Leonard Fournette is more of an eye back, more under center type of deal. Dalvin Cook has more flexibility. He can play out of the shotgun, which so many quarterbacks do. He has receiving ability. Same for Christian McCaffrey, but Cook has a little bit more sizzle. Now, I'm not the only one when it comes to just ranking these running backs that have Cook and Fournette like neck and neck. I even know Private Detroit's very own Alex Reno, who is just the man at this type of thing in rankings analysis. He has Dalvin Cook as his number one running back. I want to say Albert Breer has Dalvin Cook as his number one running back. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Mike Mayock at one point, it may have changed, has had Dalvin Cook as his number one running back with Leonard Fournette at number 2. Some of these guys are saying this for a reason. I feel there are several GMs that feel as though Dalvin Cook is the number one running back in this draft, followed by Leonard Fournette. And it will come to fruition at the draft because Dalvin Cook will be the first running back taken in the NFL draft. 16. The Patriots will move back into the first round. This isn't a big shocker. They have flexibility. They have players that they're willing to part with, both Jimmy Garoppolo and Malcolm Butler. Some way, somehow, one of those two, I'm thinking Malcolm Butler, gets moved. And the Patriots find their way back into the first round. They often like to, accumulate picks. They don't like trading too many picks for one. They don't have to do that. They can actually use one of their players to get a late first round pick. Garoppolo could even net a high first round pick. And in any event, they're going to move somebody, and they're going to be picking day one. Number 17, it's a guy that, besides the risk, character issues and other issues and only being on contract for one more year, I would love the Lions to try to get this guy. It's Sheldon Richardson. He's more of a D end on the 3-4. I could see him playing 3-tech defensive tackle in a 4-3 without any issue. Sheldon Richardson will be the big chip move, the big player moved at this year's draft. They've got Leonard. What's the guy that they just drafted? Oh, I can't think. I was going to call him Leonard Floyd. Name escapes me. They have Muhammad Wilkerson. They've got the big kid, from USC. I can't think of his name right now. Forgive me. They're kind of set for the interior line. And the money that Richardson's going to get, they just gave Wilkerson a big chunk of change. The big USC kid, sorry, I can't think of your name right now. Isn't it Leonard? I don't know. Whatever. They're going to pay him eventually. Richardson's the odd man out. He's got 1 year left. They're going to be smart and get something for him. And so Sheldon Richardson is going to be the big player, the big chip moved at this year's NFL draft. Number 18, the Lions are more likely to trade up than trade down in the first round. We love it. Trade down, get more picks. Trade down, that's always a theme. Hey, that's what smart GMs do, right? And that's fine. But, when you have guys like Leonard Fournette maybe, dangling at 15, or Reuben Foster dangling at 15, or Hassan Reddick dangling at 13, 14. There's some good talent the Lions maybe don't think they could get by 21, and they're kind of in that range. I could see them trading up, much more likely than trading down. Number 19, Caleb Brantley 2017 is Andrew Billings of 2016. Andrew Billings, defensive tackle, ex of Baylor University, was highly touted. First round, his combine looked great. I loved him. A few of my buddies at Pride Detroit loved him. And, hey, he was an option at 16 for the Lions at some point. Then something happened, and he fell, and he fell, and he fell to the later rounds of the draft. We'll come to find out he had a knee similar to that of Linguini when they looked at it a little bit further. Well, this year, the guy that had the first round hype, and then things happened, and he fell, and he fell, and he fell, and he's going to fall and fall, is Caleb Brantley. You've got the lack of production. It was a lot about potential, what people wanted out of him. Then you had, a few of the things, character, is he too cocky, et cetera, but now, this whole issue with domestic abuse just came out. I don't want to say horrible timing, because it should come out when it does. Don't withhold something like that. He's showing his true colors, then fine. Man, it's a horrible thing. It's hard to root for guys like this. It's hard to root for guys like Joe Mixon. I personally don't, but I'm not getting into all of that. I'm just here to give you my take on this list. And Caleb Brantley, the guy that had the first round hype, falling. He's going to be the guy that's going to fall all the way to probably like the 5th or 6th round. In similar fashion, Andrew Billings, with all the hype, falling several rounds below where he was projected to be just a few weeks before the draft actually took place. Number 20, offensive linemen are still on the board for the Detroit Lions. I know Bob Quinn said, we're not looking at any linemen. We're all set at linemen, but I already gave you the spiel at left guard. It's kind of crowded there, but, you still got center to think about. A backup center, and that, Glasgow could do that. Swanson, you got to worry a little bit about the concussions if it's a recurring thing, and also he's a free agent at the end of the year, so I really think offensive line is still in play. Not early, and really every position is in play. I think after like the 4th round, they're just getting the best guy, okay? Quarterback, tight end, it don't matter. You may think you're comfortable at that position, but once you get in the later rounds, you're just getting the best player. You're really just trying to fill that up. And so offensive line is still in play. particularly interior guy that can maybe play guard or center. And number 21, we say number 21 for a prediction of the Lions draft. Michael Roberts will be a Detroit Lion. I'm going to have the mock draft come out for you guys Wednesday. And I'll be talking about this and that player. I've already tooted my horn before about, the predictions I've gotten right in the past. And, if there's one guy I'm confident the Lions are going to pick, and it's hard, man, because you know how things go and people drop and people fall and, the whole nine. So really to say one guy definitively will be on your team is hard. But I've done it a few times this year, this year or over the years, from Graham Glasgow to Laken Tomlinson. I got that tingling that Michael Roberts, tight end from Toledo, fits that bill for the 2017 draft. So at number 21, Michael Roberts, tight end from Toledo, will be a Detroit Lion. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I hope you guys enjoyed I can ball this list up now, the definitive 21 things that will happen at this year's NFL draft. NFL related, but mostly Lions. Let's give you the schedule. I'm going to have a show right before the draft. It's going to drop either Wednesday or a Thursday. Just keep tuning in to my Twitter, as well as Detroit Sports Podcast Twitter, as well as Private Detroit's Twitter. And it will drop, giving you the full 7-round mock draft for the Detroit Lions. I'll be joining the boys, Jeremy Reisman, Ryan Matthews, Alex Reno and company, for the big podcast on Private Detroit. The pre-draft podcast. We're going to do that tomorrow evening, so look forward to seeing that Tuesday or Wednesday. Check privatedetroit.com. Check my Twitter at Jerry Mallory NFL, and you'll see it. Other than that, look forward to a show or two as the draft gets going and then completes. I'm eyeing a brief draft recap podcast Thursday night after round 1. If I don't do that, I'll do like a Friday night while I recap rounds 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll have a full draft podcast this upcoming weekend as well. So essentially, I just told you a whole bunch of nothing definitive other than just check my Twitter feed at Detroit Sports Podcast, at Detroit Podcast, at Jerry Mallory NFL, at Pride of Detroit every day this week, all right? Which you should be doing anyway, because I'll be dropping on several shows, on several websites, and even a video on Private Detroit. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. As always, I just mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. I can be found at Jerry Mallory NFL on Private Detroit, and hey, at a Lions game or two. So I'm going to thank you once again for listening, and until a day or two, we'll get the complete 7-round mock draft right here on the Hindsight 20 podcast. I am Jerry Mallory, signing off.